I started Arnold Marketing Consultants in October 2019. Yes, just a few months before COVID hit, not the best time to start a business. But even though I look young, I've had a really long career in agencies, big global agencies doing some really cool stuff for huge brands. Then I went to the corporate side, and they paid me a lot of money to manage multi-million-dollar budgets with global teams. I got to fly over the world. It was super excellent. And what I realized was I was getting paid a lot of money to be really bored. In big corporate jobs, you just can't move that fast. You can't really move the needle in the way that you can with small business. And with all this experience that I gained, I realized marketing is a framework. It's a methodology. And you can scale that up or down no matter how big the business. And so what I said was I want to take everything that I've learned, everything that I've done with these teams and these budgets, and take it to the little guy. So we only serve small business. We only do digital marketing for small businesses. That's what we love doing. My goal is to help them realize their dreams. I want to see people grow and expand and become a bigger business to the point where they can fire us as their first agency and go get a bigger guy. That's absolutely my goal with what we do. So today I want to talk about message testing and why this is important. So usually with a small business, well, let's take a quick poll. How many of you work at or with a small business? Raise your hand. Okay. What about a medium to large business? All right. And then what about enterprise? Anything, the big 10,000-pound gorillas? One hand. Okay. And then how many of you just didn't want to raise your hand because, it's early and you don't feel like it? Okay. Great. See, thanks for being honest. I appreciate it. So no matter the size of the company you're working with, even though this framework, we developed it for small business, you can apply it in a medium and a large enterprise company. It doesn't matter, because with a small business, they may be starting out completely as a brand new company, as a brand new brand, or with a medium to large business, maybe they're launching a new product. Maybe they're doing a rebrand. Maybe they are adding on a materially different feature set. Or even for large companies, maybe they merged with a competitor and you have to figure out, okay, how do we go to the market with these two new companies, and how do we message? So no matter the size of the business you work with, even with Izza, who I met in our intro, she's runs a food blog herself. She could apply this methodology for her business, or the one person who raised their hand for the enterprise, you can use it whenever you're rolling out a new product or service. So really today we're going to talk about how we take this approach to testing messages, testing audiences. So a way to frame this thinking is, let's say you're talking to an entrepreneur or business owner and they go, I have a great idea. I need you to do marketing. Okay, what is it? And then they spend the next 10 minutes telling you what it is. They get super passionate. They're super excited, but it takes them 10 minutes to explain what it is. Well, as digital marketers, we know you don't have 10 minutes to get in front of somebody. You have about fraction of a second to stop the scroll and get the message across. Otherwise, you've already lost them. So you've got to be really, really tight with your messaging. The other part is when you talk to small businesses and business owners, you say, okay, who is this product or service for? And they go, everybody. No, it's not for everybody. Not everything is for everyone. As we know, it's much more effective in marketing to get very specific on who you're messaging to. So you need a specific message, you need a specific feature, benefit, and a specific audience in order to have a really effective message. So typically what happens is companies will spend a lot of money on market research, or they'll conduct their own research, maybe qualitative or quantitative. They'll do some surveys, focus groups, all that fun stuff. Well, with small businesses, they don't have that luxury. They don't have the budget to go out there and do a ton of research. And so what we wanted to do was combine all of our agency experience, and the wonderful things we've gotten to do with some big budgets and big companies, and say, how do we adapt this to the small business client, right? You've got to be pretty scrappy. They don't have unlimited budget. They don't have unlimited time. They want to do everything all at once. And in order for your marketing to be as effective as it possibly can, you have got to have the right message to the right audience. Otherwise, you're wasting time, you're wasting money. So that was the whole reason that we created this framework with Message Lab. Why do we do this? Well, clients have limited creatives. You have all known the pain of trying to set up a new set of ads. Maybe you need some collateral for an email series. You're building a new landing page on the website and you ask them, hey, do you have any pictures? And they go, no, just go find some stock photos. Okay, well, thanks. That's not as useful as having your own library collateral. The other one is video. Right now, everybody is watching video. That's the most popular format. But these small businesses don't have a videographer. They don't have a video library. Maybe they have an intern who's doing the TikTok, but that's about it. They don't really have, thank you for the pity laugh, I appreciate it. No, they don't really have a lot of collateral. And if they do want to do a photo shoot, most of the time they only have budget for one photo shoot a year, maybe two. So you've got to be really clear on what kind of collateral and creatives do you need that will really resonate with their audience, so that can inform that one photo shoot that they can afford that year. The other point of why we do this is we care about the data. Now, the best part about digital marketing is that we get the data, right? Somebody driving on 45 South, they go by a billboard. I have no idea if they looked at it. I have no idea if they thought about it. I have no idea if they're interested. Not so with digital marketing. So that's the best part of doing things like ads, is that you can actually tell if somebody is interested. They self-select into being interested. The other piece is that clients don't know their value proposition. Like I said earlier, an entrepreneur, you can talk to them for 10, 15 minutes about their brilliant idea. It's going to change the world. We're going to bring in blockchain and NFTs, and then we're going to feed all the hungry children. But they don't know how to really articulate their value prop in a clear, succinct way that anybody can understand right from the beginning, right? You give them, I've tried to do this exercise of, okay, can you try to describe your product or service in 2 sentences? And then they just make a really long run-on sentence because we can't get it that succinct. So that's the other reason why we do this, is we've got to get really clear, specific messages. And the other one is we just don't like wasting money. Again, our clients have super small budgets. Actually, when I started this business, everybody said, you're not going to make any money serving small business. And I said, I know, but I've got to try. So it's been 3 years. So far, we're making money, knock on wood, everything's going good. But that's because I respect my clients' budgets. Now, you guys at maybe medium or larger companies, you still have a budget you have to work within. You don't have a limited budget to spend on whatever you want all the time. So you've got to be smart with every dollar that you have. So let's talk about what Message Lab is. So as I said earlier, it's really a framework for how you approach creating messages, finding the right audience in digital marketing. Again, this framework can scale up or down. You can put as much time, money, and variables into it as you want, but we've really tried to hone it down to the minimum viable product of what's going to work. So what we do is we help our clients articulate a key value proposition, meaning what are you doing for the customer? What is their life going to be like after they use your product or service? What transformation will they get after they use this product or service? Then the other one is key features. So yes, their life is better. There's free puppies everywhere. All the starving children are fed. But what are the features of this product that a specific audience might find interesting, right? So think of a pair of Nike shoes. Some people may find the advanced cushion to be a feature that they care about. Other people may just care about the design. Does it look cool? Other people may say, well, I just like Adidas because Kanye West is making shoes and that's what I want to do. Okay, well, Kanye West doesn't work with Nike, so that's not a feature we can use with them. The other benefit of using this framework is that you can also test out the imagery, the copy and creative, and then the audience targeting as well. As I said, it's much more important to be able to find a specific audience and build from there than try to serve everybody at once. Especially with a new product, a new service, or an entirely new company, you will fail if you try to go too broad at once. You have to pick who's your best fit core customer and get really, really detailed on who they are. Get them to use, love, talk about, advocate for the product, and then you can build out and add on other audiences and other personas. But it's very difficult to launch something new and try to appeal to everybody, because then it just gets lost in the noise. So here what we're doing is putting the right message at the right time in the right way in front of the right people. So this really pulls out to what's the value proposition, what's the message, what does the creative imagery look like? Again, this could be photos, it could be video, it could be a graphic you design, and then of course the ad copy as well. And then who is the audience that is seeing this and responding to it? So here's how it works. We're going to start with the client. And when I say client, it could be you at your company, it could be other coworkers in a department. Start with their assumptions about the product, start with their assumptions about who wants it and why they want it. Then we're going to test 2 value propositions, 3 product features, and 3 audiences. And again, here the key is going to be to challenge assumptions, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Then what you do is you run Facebook ads with a limited time period and a limited budget. The reason we do this on Facebook is because, yes, we've all seen the numbers of Facebook's dying. Everybody's on the TikToks now. But truly, Facebook, there are still enough people to get good data and good insights with a limited spend and a limited budget. So it's a good proving ground for what we're trying to do, which is to come up with what are the messages, key features, and benefits to which audiences that we want to focus on for our new thing. The pieces of the framework I'll go into in a little bit more detail. So the first one is baselines. So with any scientific experiment, you need a control group, and that's what the baseline is. It is a control group. So you start with the broadest possible value proposition, the broadest possible message. Really the key with the baseline is to say, is that if somebody's going past this, they understand what industry, what general product it is, maybe kind of what it can do for you, but you don't need to get really specific. The key is just to have a control group. So I want to know if on Facebook, nobody cares about dog washing services and nobody ever clicks that baseline ad, well then getting more specific with these is probably not going to be that effective. Versus if people go, oh yeah, I really want the dog washing service, then you know you have something to measure your more specific messages against. So you always want that control group. Now, the good thing is that usually when you do the brainstorming exercise, you tend to get those broad, mushy messages out first, so you can generate those pretty easily. Then the next one is audience groups. So I do a combination of research, so go and find out who might be interested in this product or service. Some of my favorite resources for research is Reddit. How many of you actually use Reddit? You may have heard of it, but how many of you actually use Reddit? Okay, a decent percentage. For those of you who don't, it is the number 5th most visited website in the United States. So that is where a ton of traffic is going. It also has amazing SEO, but the benefit of Reddit is that people self-select into groups around a specific interest. So if you are a credit union, for example, you can go into the personal finance subreddit and see what are people talking about credit unions. What are their pain points? Who are the types of people who would sign up for a credit union account or who would never sign up for a credit union account, and why? So it's doing some research. Again, I love using Reddit. Facebook groups can be pretty decent as well, but Reddit's really easily searchable. You don't have to join or clog up your Facebook feed with a bunch of that. Then the other one is talk to your client, or your client or your team, and say, okay, who do we think might be interested in this? And again, get really, really specific. It's not just, oh, well, any parent. Okay, well, 40% of America is a parent. That's not going to help. Let's get much more specific with who we're trying to go. Then the other one is the value proposition. So again, how does this change somebody's life? What is the benefit that they use, the transformation they have after they started using this product or service? And then the other one is feature messages. So if it's something like an app, you're going to have a long list of features, right? If it's something simple like a shoe, you may have to think about design, or you may have to think about functionality, durability, all of these. The nice part about the feature messages is those tend to become campaign taglines later on, and we'll talk about that too. So you may be asking, these numbers seem really random. Why 2 value props? Why 3 audiences? Why 3 feature sets? Well, the answer is we've done this a lot for a lot of customers, and the more variables you introduce, the more complex it is. So for some clients, if they're not used to a more scientific approach to marketing, they may find this overwhelming. It also introduces more complexity in terms of cost. The more ad variations you have, the more expensive it's going to be to run those ads, right? And the other one is, if you get too simple, you're not going to find out that much. So if I'm only testing one audience against these feature messages, but the audience is wrong, well, then that doesn't tell me anything. But if I'm testing 2 audiences against 3 feature messages, and one audience doesn't respond at all, but one does, okay, that gives me some data. That gives me some insights. You want to have a baseline minimum to play with here. So let's talk about how Message Lab works. Basic steps are doing a client brainstorm and research. We're going to build out our hypotheses. Then we'll actually get things live, put them out into the world, give more money to Mark Zuckerberg because, he probably needs it. He doesn't need any more money. And then we'll do analysis and iteration if we need to. The nice part about this framework is that, like any science, you will test and iterate, test and iterate, test and iterate. You can do this process over and over, especially with something like a new app that you're building and adding on new features. Go through another one of these exercises again with any of the major new features that you're introducing. So we'll go through a case study. I can't say the name of the company. They haven't launched yet. It's very close to launch, but right now it's confidential. It is a fintech startup. It's these 2 gentlemen came to me and said, we want to make an app for kids that makes financial literacy fun and interesting and helps kids learn how to save money and invest money. So you've all seen probably the debit cards for kids. There's a million of them out there. All that does is teach the kid, I'm going to get money in and put money out. It doesn't teach them anything about interest rates. It doesn't teach them about earning their own money rather than just begging mom and dad for it. It doesn't teach them about broader financial literacy concepts. I don't know about you guys, but I went to public school here in Texas and I was never taught anything about money. That was never a class that we had. So I'm a big believer in what these guys are doing, but they said, we have this idea. We're working on the app. Let's go market it. Go get me 50,000 users on the wait list. And I said, okay, what are the actual things that we're selling? What's the value prop? What's the real meat here that you can go to a parent or a kid and they go, oh yeah, I get that. I want that. And they went, well, everybody will want it. Okay, what about people without kids? Well, maybe they could have their cousin or their aunt do it. Okay, maybe we'll get a little more specific. So again, small business owners, you guys probably know, they want to be everything to everyone at all times. So you got to get them more focused. So we asked them in this brainstorm, and I recommend just setting aside 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half to do this with your team or with them. What is the value proposition? You can also base it a little bit about the mission statement, but what are you really doing for people? What's the true value you are bringing? So what they said was that this combination of banking and financial literacy combined with a game is going to keep kids interested, right? And it's going to encourage a higher level of financial literacy. Then a question I always like to ask, especially with a small business, is what is the reason for starting the company, right? That moment of passion can actually give you great marketing insight into what you can go to the market with. So with these guys, they didn't conduct a bunch of research. They didn't say, okay, well, we have $10 million sitting around from our last company exit. Let's find the most financially viable, easy business to start. No, they went, we really care about making more financially literate kids. They said, this is not taught in schools. In America, most people struggle to even have $500 in their savings account. This is a problem. We really want to solve this problem for the next generation. Then we asked, who do you think your ideal customer is and why? And they did what all of us do, even as marketers. It's easy to put yourself in those shoes. Say, I'm going to create the product that I want for me. And for these guys, they've had a couple of exits from companies. They've had quite a bit of money and success in their life. And so they assumed that other affluent parents would want this tool because they want to teach their kids how to be entrepreneurs like them. So that was their initial assumption. And then a question I love to ask is, especially a small business owner or entrepreneur, they love talking about their idea. They will talk to anybody about it. It'll be at the grocery store, at the bar, at the hotel. They will just talk to everybody about it. And I like to ask, what has surprised you about this when you talk to people? Is there any reaction that took you off guard? And they said, yes, actually. We were talking to some people who were homeschoolers, and they said they might be interested. And that hadn't crossed their mind at all, right? They just assumed that most kids were like theirs, going to private school or maybe public school, but they had not considered the homeschool angle. That never came out of any of our other conversations until I asked them specifically, what surprised you in some of your conversations? What was unexpected? So sometimes you have to reframe your questions in order to get the stuff out of their brain. So step 2 is building the hypotheses. So this is where we get to challenge the client. Either it can be some of your own ad hoc research or just flipping questions in a different way. So what we asked them to consider is, well, maybe it's not just the financial literacy aspect that's interesting. Maybe it's the safety. Because if you're handing a phone with an app to your kid, most parents, hypothetically, will want to know that it is safe and secure. The other assumption we wanted to challenge, they were really in love with this gaming aspect of the product. And we said, but is that a primary or a secondary feature we need to talk about? Maybe parents think their kids spend enough time playing video games and don't want them to play anymore, even if it does teach them banking. That's another one we wanted to test. And the third one was, okay, affluent parents have resources, they have friends, they have networks, they probably have a financial advisor, they can pay for a course or something to teach their kids about finances. What about middle and low income families that don't have these resources? What do we think about that? And see if there's an interest from parents in this. So we developed these hypotheses. You'll get your feature sets, you'll get your value props, and you'll get your audiences. So then what you do is you go to Facebook and you just put these in different combinations, right? I want to test audience number 1 with value prop number 1. Test audience number 1 with value prop number 2. And you just go down and make a matrix of this. You guys might be wondering, in Facebook, there's a dynamic A/B testing option where you can just dump a bunch of copy and a bunch of creative in there and Facebook will mush them all together and find the winner. That's fine when you're going to scale, when you want a bigger budget with ads and you generally know how to talk about your product or service. But when you're just starting out with something brand new, you want to have a little more control than that, because what we're trying to find out is challenging our assumptions and getting to the real meat of who's going to buy this and why will they buy it? What are the features that are attracting them to it? The other thing to note is as you're developing these, make sure you have multiple copy variations and multiple creative variations. The reason is because if I'm putting out that audience number 2 with value prop number 3 ad, and I have one image, and for some reason that image just doesn't stand out in the feed, or the angle's off, or the colors aren't very good, that just sunk my whole test. That'll say audience number 2, value prop number 3 did not work, but maybe that was just bad creative. So you always want to have multiple copy variations and multiple image variations as well. So we put this out we spent about, I think it was 5.5 weeks to do these ads, and $2,000 was the total budget. So we had the 3 audiences that we spent $500 each, and then our baseline audience. So $2,000 over 5 weeks versus, I don't know if you guys have ever priced out a focus group. It's really expensive, a lot more expensive than that, by a factor of usually about 10. So $2,000, we were able to put these out and get these answers. One thing to note here is, what is the goal and objective when you're setting up the ads, right? Because you can select impressions, CPM, all of that. Don't care about any of it. All I care about is click-through rate. I don't care about cost per click. I don't care about cost per acquisition. I'm not trying to get somebody to go through to the site and go through and buy something right now. All I care about is, are they interested in this message enough to stop the scroll, read it, and click on it? That is all I care about. So CPM doesn't matter. CPC doesn't matter. Only how many people are seeing it and clicking on it, because that to me is the indicator of interest. That is them saying, hey, I identify as this audience. I identify with this value prop or this feature. I want in, I'm going to do this. So that is what you want to do, is set up for the objective of highest click-through rate. And that's how you determine your winners, right? You'll see the ads, sort them in the dashboard by highest click-through rate, and that will give you the answer. So then you do the analysis. That is, again, looking through the data, looking through the results. Usually what happens is, Facebook takes a week or two to really get started in terms of targeting and to start matching up, okay, are these the right people? Are these the right fit? So you want to give it at least 1 or 2 weeks without messing with anything. Then after about 2 weeks, you'll start to see some data and some patterns start to form. This is when you can really look for, is it maybe the creative is off? So if you're getting like a 0.1% click-through rate, that's pretty abysmal. Maybe there's something off with the copy. Then you can kind of tweak the copy, maybe add a new creative variation with it to test. Then after about 3 or 4 weeks, you'll really start to see clear winners. I like to turn off any poor performing ads at this point, just to better utilize the budget toward the winners, and start to see. The rule of thumb, at least for us with Facebook ads, is anything around a 1% click-through rate is kind of baseline. Somebody is saying, yeah, I'm interested enough. Anything above that is giving me good data. We've done this for lots of clients, like I said, and the best click-through rate that I ever saw was 12%. And that was when we got pretty specific with who the audience was, what we were selling, and what the feature was to them. But we knew that that was the winner. That is what informed the rest of the go-to-market strategy for that startup, actually. Then sometimes you will get some pretty poor results. We actually just wrapped up a message lab for a product where it's in the home health industry, and it's a method to help prevent falls in seniors, which is pretty serious and a pretty needed product. However, when I was speaking with the owner, he says, look, I'm a B2B guy. I'm just going to try direct to consumer, see what happens. Let's go for it. I said, okay, let's do this and test to see, is there even a avenue to direct to consumer? So we did the message lab. We could not get a click-through rate above 0.5%. No matter what we did, no matter what we did with the copy and the creative. And we're relatively experienced at marketing to a senior audience. We have a few clients who do Medicare services and some who do mobility devices for the elderly. But for this one, with the fall prevention, could not get above 0.5%. So that to me said, okay, maybe direct to consumer is not the right avenue. Maybe you need to go partner with the VA or go partner with a few hospitals in the area and doctor's offices to offer this. So sometimes your experiment's just going to fail, and that can tell you something too. It's okay to get poor results. In the case of the fintech startup, the app for kids, we did find out that, yes, actually safety was a big message that parents cared about. They want to know that if I'm giving something to my kid, that it's secure, especially around finances, and that it's safe, that it's not, there to instill anything bad or take advantage or install spyware on their phone. So going forward now in all of our marketing, we have included the word safe and secure in every single marketing message that we do. That is something that came out of Message Lab. The other thing that surprised us was actually their theory that more affluent parents would be interested was correct. More upper middle class parents engaged with the ad and clicked on the ad. The other thing we found with this was grandparents. Grandparents were an audience that they hadn't really thought about as an interested party. They thought, okay, maybe grandma and grandpa would get the app alongside the kid just to help them out because they're excited about it. But no, it turns out grandparents were actually the most interested audience group in this. And it makes sense, right? Because mom and dad are too busy being mom and dad, trying to work and raise a family and do that. They know they need to teach their kids about financial literacy, but how do they do it? They don't have time. Whereas grandma and grandpa, if they're retired, they have a little more space. They have a little more thinking about the future for their kids, right? Especially they've gone through retirement. They know managing money is a really big deal. And so they want their grandkids to learn that too. So what we've done here is we actually did a second round to iterate even further on these insights. And as I said before, we're getting really close to launching. So those were the steps. We'll go back. It was brainstorm and research. Then you will build your hypotheses. You get them out live onto Facebook. Again, as little as 5 weeks, 6 weeks, $2,000 ad spend. And then just look at the results and talk through the results. Who was raising their hand for what key feature? Who is raising their hand for what key benefit? Then you can start to build the rest of your digital marketing around that, around these confirmed hypotheses of, in this case, it is grandparents wanted a safe and secure app that was fun for kids to learn about financial literacy. Oh, and it had a game to keep the kids interested too, but not as a primary message. So that's what we really learned. And that's what we're going out with. The other one was homeschoolers. We did confirm that there is a market for homeschoolers, but we're going to focus on the grandparents and upper middle class parents first with the launch. So that is Message Lab. As I said, you can scale this up, you can scale this down, but really start with 3 audiences, 3 key features, and 2 value props. That'll give you enough information and data to start going and learning from this. All right. Any questions? Yes, go ahead. So, we have a microphone, I think. Also, hi to everyone on the live stream. I didn't ask you guys to raise your hands, but I can't see you, so that's fine.
So I love this microphone. I know when if you work with WordStream, the big companies that do the keyword search, they have a lot of tools for fine tuning that. So in the next stage, after you've established and tested the hypothesis, which by the way I think is brilliant, because I've worked with a lot of small businesses and that's exactly where they're stuck. But once you get that, how far do you go? Because you are limited on budgets with small businesses. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so next step is to take these findings and use that to even inform your channels. So for us, grandparents being a big market with this financial literacy app is we can do some digital, but maybe we think about radio ads, maybe we think about TV ads, maybe we go to in-person events at senior centers and say, hey, do you want something for your grandkids to help teach them about this? So that informed our next steps with what we're actually doing for go-to-market.
Cool.
Questions?
I've got one. Oh, it's one over there.
We have a couple here.
Oh.
So my question has to do with, like you're talking about the homeschool community being a part of that. Has there been any interest in marketing this towards a curriculum for like charter schools or homeschool organizations?
Yeah, 100%. So part of the bigger vision for this app, I have to be careful with what I say, I'm under a strict NDA, is integrating it into the school system. How do you, like you said, charter schools may be an option, but how do you, it's one thing for this direct to consumer, oh, the parent decides, okay, this is something I want my kid to do, or maybe the kid says, hey, I want a way to earn money. I want to get this app, but you will have true efficiency of scale and really achieve the vision and mission if you can start at the schooling level. So that's absolutely part of the vision. But for now, we need a core group of base atomic users to start using the app, breaking it, saying, are we actually living up to the value prop? I need a minimum number of people to start using it and telling us if it works before we start to scale out.
Yeah, so when you talk about testing a hypothesis and these variables, how detailed do you get when you talk about the variables? Like, do you have one set that's, an image, a static image, changing bits of the copy, and then have another one that's like that image slightly different with, the same copy? How much do you control and for how detailed of a variable set?
Yeah, great question. It is, in case y'all couldn't hear, it's how detailed do you get with each variation of these ads? The answer is, don't make yourself crazy. It's really easy to make 50 different versions of one image that's slightly different. What we're aiming for here is not scientific accuracy, it is directional correctness. So is this really bright, fun image the thing that works versus a more subdued image that doesn't feature a person? That's what you want to get toward, not does the darker image that doesn't have a person in it have this kind of angle or this other angle, or is copy under it or not. You want to get directionally correct with this before you start refining. Yep.
Come in here. Maybe I missed this, but what were the three features, or what are some examples of that?
So again, we'll take the Nike shoes example. So one feature could be, Swiss engineered to have the best cushion possible. The other one could be Swiss engineered to have the most durability. The other one could be designed in California to look super cool. So it's what are the features about it?
And that's text, not the imagery.
Correct. But the imagery can obviously feed into that as well. You could have the picture of it, or you could have a picture of somebody sewing it for the durability. It just needs to all wrap into each other. Again, which is why I don't like using Facebook's automatic A/B tester, because you don't get real results with it. You want to see a cohesive ad together, that the copy, the image, and the headline all work together.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. Hi. What do you consider as a good conversion rate?
A good conversion rate. So for these, I don't look at conversion rates, only look at click-through rates. And again, to me, 1% is kind of the minimum, like, all right, things are working, people are interested enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Now, later on, once you find this winning message, these winning hypotheses, and you do conversion-focused ads, then that's where I'll really focus on conversions and can we drive conversions up to 5%. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to know for how long, what's the time recommended to run the campaigns? I heard you said 2 weeks, like is the minimum, but what will be the good amount?
Yeah, 2 weeks
time.
is the minimum to even let Facebook get comfortable, do its thing. We recommend a minimum of 5 to 6 weeks for the full campaign, although ideally would be about 7 or 8 weeks is the idea. But you'll start seeing, especially toward that 7-week mark, you'll really start to see things lock in and solidify, and you should be pretty confident at that point of which ones are the winners.
Hey, my question is around, and you might have touched on this. Sorry if I missed it, but the creative side of things. I did hear you say if they say, use stock images, that's not going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
But do you normally do you guys reverse brief on creative, or do they come to the table with that from another agency, or do you do creative, or what's that situation?
Great question. Because we work with small businesses, they don't have any resources, agency, anything. Usually what we do is we get pretty scrappy. Either we'll create graphics in-house, we have a graphic designer who can create something, or we'll use free stock photography. If you look, the site Unsplash and Pixabay both have royalty-free stock photos you can use in commercial use. So sometimes we'll do a free stock photo and do some kind of graphic treatment on top of it just to test that and see, is that something people are responding to? But again, the point of these tests is less, does the creative look good? It's more, what are the messages that people are responding to?